Rebel Rouser. I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7. We're at episode number 1620, and today it's a Resistance briefing, and it is about Station Theta Black. This is episode 11 of season 1 of Star Wars Resistance, and as it turns out, the big headline from this episode is not necessarily anything with the content of the episode itself. It's really more about the personnel. So it turns out that something that has not been talked about by Disney at all has apparently happened for reals. It's about as official, I guess, as any official confirmation you might hear from Lucasfilm or Disney, but it is not going to be Rachel Butera playing General Leia Organa on Star Wars Resistance after all. A woman named Carolyn Hennesy is the person who voiced Leia in this episode, and she has already actually appeared as Leia in the Lego Star Wars All-Stars series so far, and now she is working her way over to Star Wars Resistance as well. She is an Emmy-nominated actress, and I guess best known for a role on General Hospital, and, you know, it's kind of funny to have a soap opera veteran on there, considering that Christopher Sean, who voices Kaz Ziono, is also a soap opera veteran as well. And in a bizarre bit of coincidence that has nothing to do with anything, but apparently Carolyn Hennesy, according to her Wikipedia page, was born in the town where I spent most of my formative years, Encino, California, actually. So I lived there from the time I was 4 until the time I was 20. Yeah, that sounds about right. So anyway, just a strange coincidence, but that is going to put paid to the whole thing with Rachel Butera, and I think we now have that loop closed and we can move forward. You know, General Leia Organa actually appeared very early on in Resistance, but was just seen and not actually voiced. Like, she just kind of appeared looking at Kaz like, you know, who the heck are you, basically, and that was it. And we haven't seen Leia since, but now she appears in this episode where Kaz turns over the evidence of the First Order's plot for the Colossus refueling station, and she gets to comment on it and talk about, you know, what a good job and what good information was, you know, presented by Kaz as part of this whole thing. And so, in the meantime, they decide that they're going on a mission together to this Station Theta Black to investigate something happening in the unknown regions. The information that Kaz has provided has given them enough to trace their way into the unknown regions and find a First Order outpost. And so Poe says, yeah, I get to pick my wingmates for my mission, so Kaz, let's go. And Kaz is like, really, me? Wow, you know, as it would be for a kid's show. And so they go, and it turns out that we are in spoiler mode for this episode. So if you don't want it ruined for you, then that's okay. If you don't want to know what the First Order is up to in the unknown regions, or at least this particular part of it, then save this episode for a later date. Otherwise, if you're good with me spoiling it for you, then let's do it. So the First Order is set up in an asteroid field, and they're mining the asteroids at this station, Theta Black, for a substance called Deadlinite. And Deadlinite is something that is needed to help construct blasters. Lots of blasters, apparently, according to the records that they're able to find, that they have been able to mine enough Deadlinite to make lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of blasters. And so it's more evidence of the First Order arming themselves in violation of the Galactic Concordance, which unfortunately Leia knows toward the end is not useful information for them. It's kind of hard to believe, but it's not useful in the sense that it's not going to convince the senators or the New Republic that they need to be, you know, raising their alarm levels about the First Order. In fact, there's a note in there that kind of echoes what we heard from one of the themes in The Last Jedi, that there's not going to be action on it because so many senators are actually profiting from the construction of the blasters and the mining operations that are supporting them, and so on and so forth. And so the whole arms dealers thing, and both sides profiting, or rather, you know, people who don't care what side they're serving and still profiting from the whole endeavor, the war profiteers bit in The Last Jedi is being echoed here in Star Wars Resistance as well. Unfortunately for Poe and Kaz, they are not able to find this out for themselves without getting into a whole bunch of trouble, because even though the facility is scheduled for demolition and nobody is there, naturally they set off an alert where Phasma out at Starkiller Base finds out that, oh, somebody's actually on the station that shouldn't be, and we're about to go blow it up, but, you know, I'm going to go personally supervise it, and I'm going to bring Major Von Rag with me as well to see what's going on. So they go, and they end up having to face Poe and Kaz, and Poe and Kaz naturally get away because they have to, and Phasma survives because, of course, she has to. So, you know, the stakes are kind of low in that regard, and hey, that's okay. That's, you know, something that as an adult you would pick up on, but for kids, you know, hey, it's still exciting. Hey, it was still exciting anyway, but yeah, kids aren't necessarily going to pick up on that one particular aspect of the, you know, construction of the conflict or anything like that. And that is mostly going to do it for our Resistance briefing on Station Theta Black, Episode 11, from Season 1 of Star Wars Resistance. And before I wrap things up, I just want to say I hope you'll consider subscribing to this show to make sure that you get it delivered to you automatically wherever you happen to be enjoying it. And I hope that you are enjoying this daily dose of Star Wars joy, and that you'll consider supporting it by joining the community at patreon.com/SW7x7. Now, to wrap things up, this seems to be the first half finale for Season 1 of Star Wars Resistance. It hasn't been stated outright anywhere that I've seen, but it does appear to be the case because there's no information floating around right now about what Episode 12, Episode 13, or any other upcoming episodes are. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of information gap out there for the moment. And for what it's worth, looking back at Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, which was 20 episodes, so the nearest equivalent to what we're dealing with Star Wars Resistance, they ended right about this time for their first half finale and then picked up right in January, like right away. And so, you know, it makes sense to think that if they've got 11 episodes that they're going to fit in between, you know, the beginning of 2019 and say before Star Wars Celebration in Chicago, then they'll probably want to get started on them right away in January. So I think we can probably expect within, you know, maybe even within the first week of January that we're going to get our first episode of the second half of Season 1 of Star Wars Resistance. So keep your eyes open for that. And of course, we will pick up our Resistance briefings then. And that is officially going to do it for this episode. So thank you again so much for joining me for it, and as always, may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2018 Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it!